To be quite honest with you guys, I have been I have been really, really like thinking about life, like taking stock of my life. What am I going to be doing? Because like I feel like, to be quite honest, when I was younger, let's say a teenager, let's say around 15, 18, around that age, I felt deeply, deeply depressed. I felt deeply, at times suicidal. And I really did not plan to live, like, long. It was always kind of in the back of my mind, like, I had this plan. Like, oh my God, this might be kind of crazy to, like, talk about, but it's true. I had this plan, and I was like, I'm just gonna take myself out in a blaze of glory around, 30. And not because, people hear that, like, 30 is not old. 30 is very, very young. But I didn't, like, I'd been through so much, and I just didn't want to do it. I didn't see a point, for the longest time. I'm like, why am I even here? What's the point in this shit show? I'd, like, go through all this shit, and then, I could die any day, and, like, what's the fucking point of being here at all? And that was, like, my line of thinking for many, many, many years. Actually, up until very recently, I started to realize I need to reevaluate some things because I'm almost 30 now. And that came up real quick. And ever since I was about 21, I have been in a deep dive of spirituality and healing and yoga and meditation. I've been in therapy consistently. I've been medicated, like, for my depression, my anxiety, my PTSD. I've been healing, right? I've been living. I've been going on dates. I have this long-term relationship that's so fruitful, and I'm so grateful, and I'm starting to build a life. And the past couple of years, I've been feeling like I just want to focus on that. But at the same time, I have this deep, like, fear and this pressure to figure things out. And not just because, like, oh, I need to know, but because, financially, I'm, in a little bit of debt. And, my savings is dwindled. And I noticed, like, let's take back a few steps. I started thinking about school, specifically college, because fuck high school. Like, I'm not telling you to drop out of high school. Definitely finish high school in your own way. It's necessary and it's important to finish high school in America. That's all I can speak to because I live in America. And it is really important. So I'm not telling people, fuck high school. And if you have a good high school experience, oh my God, just be so grateful because that's pretty special. If you have good friends and, like, good teachers and a good little community and you kind of enjoy going, you have your little clubs, you have your little sports, there's games, there's fun things to do, okay? It's fun sometimes being in high school. But for where I was at in my life, when I was in high school, I was being groomed, I was being abused, I was being sexually abused, I was financially supporting myself from the time I was 16, and that was very hard on myself. So long story short is I just had a lot going on. My mom was dead. I was in and out of foster care. And, I guess she is dead. It's kind of my thing, If you don't know me, I mention it in, like, every podcast, every conversation, just about. Yeah, my mom is dead. I found her dead. And that's kind of my thing, guys. Like, come on now. And and it's my Yaya used to say, which, if you don't know, means grandmother in Greek. My mom's mom, my Yaya, very close with her. I love her. She actually died of COVID when I was in the thick of nursing school, literally in, like, my last semester. Anyway, oh my God. She used to say, if we don't laugh, we cry. And, I kind of live by that now because, like, Sometimes you just gotta fucking laugh and be like, what the fuck? Okay, so during this time, I was very, very driven to get out of my situation. And my golden ticket in my head out of this abuse and toxic environment was graduating from college. And I chose my college degree based off my passions, my interests, what I'm good at, what the world needs, and what would get me graduated as quickly as possible while still being a stable and secure job that I'm interested and passionate about. And I ended up choosing nursing. And so I started college around 2017. I spent the following years working, doing my pre-nursing classes. 2019 rolls around, and guess fucking what? I get into nursing school. It was, I even remember, like, to this day, I was in microbiology, one of the hardest classes ever. Oh my God. I think it was the teacher. She just made it so hard. She was sweet, but she just wasn't that good of a teacher, to be honest. But the thing about, like, me in school is, like, especially when it comes to making good grades, sometimes it's not even about knowing the material so much as it's about figuring out the system that your teacher is going to use. That's how to be successful in school. Not just knowing the material, but knowing what system your teacher is going to use, how they're going to test you, and where they get the material, how they ask their questions, things like that. Because that is how, it's unfortunately, all riding on the teacher to pass you, right? So I'm in microbiology, and all our phones go off at the same time because, a lot of people that were in the microbiology class are, not all of them, but a lot of them were in, trying to get into nursing school too. And I just remember, like, 8 heads popped up, and we all were like, and, I looked at my phone, and we all got the confirmation email that we got into nursing school, and it was just such a, like, we're all like, woo! Like, it was just a big moment. And when I tell you, I worked my ass off. Like, I was studying morning and night. During the day, I was constantly studying, constantly learning, constantly reading, and I was doing too much. I was burning myself out, but I was like, I just have to finish. I have to get out of here. I have to graduate. I have to have my own money. I have to have my own career. And I felt all this pressure to really figure it out, not just because I'm young and we all do, but because I really don't have family support. Like, I don't have a family home to go to, at Christmas and holidays. And, if, for hypothetically, God forbid, I'm evicted, like, I wouldn't be able to just be like, oh, can I stay with you, Mom? Because she's dead. And I can't be like, oh, Grandma, Grandpa, can I stay with you? Because they're all dead too. And I can't be like, Dad, can I stay with you? Because he's a sex offender. So it's like, I really just don't really have anywhere to go, like, if you think about it, like, in a certain type of way. So 2019 comes, I'm starting nursing school, I'm moving out finally of this toxic environment that I've grown up in my whole life, and I get my own place, my first place, at 20 years old. And it is just like, I remember the first fucking night I slept there. And, like, literally every night I've been, like, in my own apartment, like, sleeping and waking up. I feel like I'm at the beach. Like, I feel like I'm on vacation. Like, I wake up and it feels so free. I'm like, oh, I can, make my coffee in peace and do my yoga and do whatever the fuck I want. Like, this is my home. I can cook and clean and, there's not going to be cigarette smoke and people yelling and screaming and throwing shit and trash everywhere that's not mine. And I just really, I felt safe and happy and comfortable for the first time, I feel like, in my life. And I started to have all these realizations. And it really started in 2020, in January. About that time, I was like, oh, so meditation seems pretty cool because it's technically productive, but you just sit there and don't do you don't have to do anything, you just be, and that's productive. And as someone that was, like, addicted to being productive, it gave me an excuse to slow down and just be while telling myself I'm still being productive. So it kind of started just like that. Like, I really, and oh my God, I remember not even being able to really comfortably sit there for 5 minutes. It was just like, it was just so long and so boring, and like, I just didn't want to do it. So I started with 2 minutes. And honestly, I learned to fucking love it. I remember one time I was meditating and I opened my eyes afterwards and I felt high. Like I had smoked, I felt so good. Like, I was like, what is happening? Like, I'm actually feeling like high right now. I didn't know this could happen from meditating. And I just started to like deep dive into my spirituality. So we all know 2020. And I mentioned that was January. So at this point, I'm in the 3rd semester of the nursing program, and it's a 5-semester program. And March comes around, there starts to be rumors. Everybody's like, oh my God, we're gonna, be out of school for a couple weeks. Woo! And then the whole fucking world shuts down. We all know the story. And the thing about nursing school is it can't be taught online. There's a reason that nursing school is not offered as an online program. It's just not. It just doesn't fucking work. There's so many labs, hands-on things to learn, clinical procedures. Like, oh my God. Like, even just learning how to put your PPE on properly. Like, there's so much stuff that is just not, like, learned well online for nursing in particular. And so they really dropped the ball. The program I was in, they really fucked a lot of people, including me, over by not being prepared and then just kind of shoving us through. And a lot of people failed out. A lot of people, because it was a program, like, you can't just change the program in the middle of a semester or in the middle of a program. Anyway, so I make it through that semester, and this same year is the year that I dumped my very abusive, toxic ex that groomed me and, had been living with me for years. And I finally was able to escape and leave that situation into a much healthier situation. But I had all this, like, fallout from stuff I just didn't understand, like, that happened to me as a child, like abuse and rape and all these, like, things that I was just dealing with. And then on top of that, I lost a big community that I was in. I mentioned it before, the haunted house community that I grew up in. I've been a part of since I was 10. And so losing that was like, in a way, like losing a family. And especially, because I kind of put my family into my friends as a child because my mom passed and this, that, and the other. So my friends were my family. So that was very hard for me. And then my friend Catherine, oh my God, kitty cat Catherine, she died on Halloween. On fucking Halloween. And I was partying that whole night. I was up all night, like, it was dawn, and I get a call in the morning. I hadn't even slept, and she died. And then, a month later, I get a call, and my grandmother, my yaya that raised me, she has COVID. And I just remember, like, sitting in my car. I remember being at the gym, and I got that text, and I was like, huh. And it just felt significant. It felt like my whole world just changed. And, a couple weeks later, I've talked about this story before. I'm not going to go into detail right now. I can another time. It was very horrific, the way everything happened. And I basically, like, watched her wither away and die from COVID in, like, a week. It was very rapid, very crazy. And then I got COVID. And at this point, I'm in my 4th semester of a 5-semester nursing program. And it was the very end of the 4th semester. Or wait. No, it was the very end of my 3rd semester, you guys. And they let me take my final exam after Christmas because I'd finished everything, but then right at Christmas time, my grandmother got COVID, then I got COVID, so they let me, because I finished all my coursework, I finished all my clinicals, I basically passed this semester, I just hadn't taken my last exam, so they're like, oh, because all this is going on, they were kind enough to let me take it in January. So I somehow do really well on that exam, and I'm put into my 4th semester. And at this point, I'm, losing my mind. There's, 5 significant things that have just happened in my life that year, and I'm just not mentally well. And I just, nursing is already so stressful, especially nursing school. Oh, my God, it's so stressful. I was crying all the time, every day. But I loved it, and I just really didn't want to leave, but I knew I needed to, at least for right then. And to me, I had such black or white thinking. It was all or nothing. I was like, I either stay in and I finish and I kill myself, or I have to leave and I take a break and I never go back. And the reason I said I would never go back is because I was like, I just can't do it. I can't picture myself being at a point where I can mentally be able to do this again. And by then, I would have to take out tons and tons of student loans. I would be, so much older, and, I need this to work out right now. And it kind of felt like my whole fucking life fell apart. Because, I tried to make it through the 4th semester. I finished the 4th semester, but I didn't pass. And it really just, I had the chance to remediate and do it again and finish, but I really was at such a breaking point that I had to choose between that and my mental health. And to this day, I am so grateful and so happy that I made the choice I did. It was one of the hardest choices I ever had to make. It was literally something that it drove me nuts for years. And it's because I kept going back and forth. I knew deep down what was right for me. I knew I needed to take a step back. And, if you look at it from an abundance mindset, you can think, you can always go back to school. You can always finish. This is never a waste. But if you look at it through a fear and a lack mindset that we all, are subject to, then it's more like, did I just waste all that money and waste all those years and all that time on a degree I don't even get? And I don't even get to work as a nurse? And did I just waste all these years of college? Because the thing about nursing school is, if you take a step back, you can't just go back and finish where you left off, even if you made all A's. You have to start the whole program over. And so I just really was like, I can't imagine myself doing that. So in my head, I was like, I guess I'm just walking away from it forever. Unless I just happen to hit the lottery and I get millions of dollars, then maybe I'll go back. And I just kind of been in this limbo ever since then. And for the first time in my life, because ever since I was a little girl, I've been like, I'm going to college. That's why I was so driven. I could have easily bullshitted my way out of high school, just not gone, and just said fuck it, and just hung out with my friends. I had the opportunity, but I saw it from the beginning. I had this tunnel vision. I was like, I want to graduate high school, I want to go to college, and I want to do this. And here's the thing, is I've been learning the past few years about abundance mindset, lack mindset, and I noticed that my decision, I feel like, was made well, but I had a lot of unnecessary fear around, what if I wasted this? And what if I, never go back? Or what if I can't ever go back because I can't take out too many student loans? And then what if I don't even graduate in the end anyway? And then I'm in tons of debt, and then I don't even have a degree. And then it's like, I would go in these circles, right? And I would be like, well, if there's no clear cut and dry answer, then I guess I'll just, work my little dead-end jobs and, work at Target and work at being a server at a little bar and, do shit like that. And for a second, it was good. Right when I left nursing school, it felt right. Probably because, it was right at the time. That was perfect for me at the time. I needed to just make some money and work on myself. But now years and years have passed, and I feel so empty doing these jobs to the point where I can literally feel suicidal. I feel like, what is the point in being alive if I'm going to go in this little rat race building and spend 40 hours a week there to barely make ends meet and live paycheck to paycheck each month, not get to really travel, not really get to, live the life of luxury and abundance that I feel like I deserve, that everyone deserves. And I kept just spiraling, I think, what is the point in this? Where am I going in life? And I would start thinking about school, and then part of me would start getting in that lack mindset where I'd be like, maybe I should have just finished. I made a mistake leaving. But at the same time, I never really said mistake, because I never really viewed it as a mistake. I really believe that things happen always in your favor, that there is a plan, that God has a plan. And if you don't resonate with God, the universe, whatever, I really believe that everything is working out for you in the long run in your favor, even when it doesn't feel like it, that it's all a part of God's plan. And I used to hear that and get mad and be like, what the fuck? You mean my mom's dying and me in foster care and going through all this shit is a part of God's plan? But then I kind of looked at things through a different perspective, you guys. My spirituality taught me that if you believe that everything happens in your favor, then you don't need to fear change. And if you believe that God is protecting and guiding you no matter what, then you don't need to fear. And if you're in a challenging time, then rest assured that challenge is literally the other side of the coin to comfort. You need to feel challenge and discomfort to feel comfort, and vice versa. They're two sides of the same coin. So I started to look at things in a completely different light. And one of the reasons I never regretted going to nursing school, and I didn't regret all the hours and days and months and years spent studying and reading and learning, and the labor of clinicals and working as a nurse tech and all these things, I didn't view as a waste for several reasons. One, because I value learning about the human body. I've learned so much. To me, it was so fascinating. It captivated me to be in these lectures and learn about the human body and how our cells work and how we can heal our bodies and take care of our bodies. And it felt like magic to be able to learn about these things and heal people and to heal myself and to teach people and educate people and just make a difference. And I don't regret it because I love what I learned, and it's helped me live a healthier lifestyle. I've learned the importance of so many things, really going into the nitty-gritty details of why it's important to drink water and what exactly it does to your body and your cells really motivated me to drink water more so than just a influencer being like, oh, take your sip of water, hot girl water, take your water time. It's like learning about what how the kidneys work and, all this. It's so complicated. It's like a different fucking language. But that was one of the reasons. And another reason was because there was this moment where I think I might have saved somebody's life. Now, it wasn't like in the movies where you're doing CPR and you're breathing in their mouth and then you're like, oh, we got a heartbeat. Oh, he's alive. It was nothing like the movies, and it wasn't dramatic or anything like that, but I just had this intuitive nudge and this thought that I couldn't let go of. So if you're in nursing school, you're working with a nurse, and you're kind of shadowing them, following them, helping them, depending on where you're at in nursing school. You can give shots, administer medicine, start an IV, and they just kind of walk you through the process or show you how they do it depending on the nurse. And, you learn the dang thing. So my nurse, he was showing me all these medicines that my patient had to take, that our patient had to take. And our patient was currently unconscious and on a ventilator. And his blood pressure was extremely low. And one of the medicines that he was prescribed was a beta blocker. And if you did not know, beta blockers are medicines that lower the blood pressure. Beta blockers cause the heart to beat more slowly and with less force. And a stronger heart beats slower, is what my instructor used to always say. And the suffix, meaning the last little bit of the last few letters of the medicine, like in the word of the medicine in a beta blocker, the suffix for it is often OLOL, and sometimes it's ALOL, and it's used to reduce blood pressure by slowing the heart rate and reducing myocardial contractility. They're most often given for hypertension and chronic heart failure. So the nurse, he's popping out the pills and getting them ready to administer. He hands them to me, tells me to administer them to the patient, and I recognize that one of the pills ends in LOL. So I brought it to my nurse's attention. I was like, is this a beta blocker? And he was like, yeah, just kind of dismissive, and was like, yeah, he's prescribed it. And I was like, right, but his blood pressure is really, really low. And I didn't want to be disrespectful. I felt uncomfortable giving the medicine. So I can't remember exactly what I said. I was very respectful because I don't want to overstep my boundaries and tell a nurse what to do. But my instinct was yelling at me. And, I was close to graduating. So I just felt like, I had gained the confidence to say, hey, are we sure that this is right, before, making what could be a fatal mistake in administering medicine. And he looked at it. And he said, let me go ask real quick. So he went out and asked someone, either, like a charge nurse or doctor, I don't fucking know. And because I said his blood pressure is really low. And that medicine, I'm pretty sure, lowers their blood pressure. And if it's already very, very low, then, that could be very, very bad. And he came back into the room and he said, all right, we're not going to give this medicine. They said not to do it. His blood pressure is too low. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And that was that. But I remember thinking, what if I had just given it to him? What if I hadn't said anything? The nurse told me he's prescribed this medicine by the doctor, and he was. Now administer it to the patient. But one thing they drilled, into my head in nursing school that a lot of times you don't realize until you start nursing, is that the nurse has to decide. It's not just the doctor, this is what I used to think. The doctor prescribes a prescription, the nurse carries out the orders and gives the prescription, right? But oftentimes the doctor's not there. And the nurse is there with the patient. And the patient's vitals can be changing constantly. You have to know, maybe their blood pressure was normal when they were prescribed that beta blocker. But it's up to the nurse to use critical thinking to say, hey, their blood pressure is too low to take it right now. And, run it by a doctor or whatever. And then, fix what you're going to do. Find a new care plan. And I never forgot that. And I kind of think I used to have this spiritual belief. I'd be like, what if that was why I stayed? Because it was right at the end for me too. It was one of my last clinical days, and it could have been bad. But I remember I came back the next week for clinical, and he wasn't my patient that week, but I saw that he was off the ventilator and he was up and awake. And I just had this moment where I was like, oh my God, he could have been dead. That really could have killed him. And that's another thing about nursing that really stresses me out, is there's a lot of things like that that you don't even consider, like you can't even fathom until like you actually are a nurse working in these situations. And that pressure really got to me. It still does. Like I asked myself, am I the type of person, I know I'm the type of person that would be up at night thinking, oh, I hope my patient's okay. And OCD analyzing, making sure I gave each medicine correctly and the right dose and this, that, and the other, and overthinking everything I did because it's so life or death. And honestly, I love being well educated. I love learning. I love learning about the body. And if I look at it, especially from an abundance mindset, like we are abundant beings and we live in an abundant world, then I could never even think for a second to regret what I've done in nursing school. It made me who I am. It made me more comfortable, more assertive, and, being an adult and making decisions and being comfortable going to someone in authority and saying, I think this might be wrong. We might need to reconsider. And realizing that I myself am now becoming an authority myself. I am becoming an adult. I am an adult now. And it just really helped me in so many ways in my life that are invaluable. So I don't regret nursing school at all. And especially now, because I have a much more abundant mindset compared to this lack mindset of, oh, what if I wasted all that time? What if I wasted all that money? One of my mantras now is there's no such thing as time or money wasted, only experience gained. But how this ties into right now is recently, like I said, in the past few years, I've been feeling very lost, very depressed. After nursing school, I was like, where am I going? I wanted to just focus on healing and therapy, but I felt like I need to figure out what direction I'm going in. And I didn't realize until now that I still had this lack mindset that I didn't have enough money to go to college if I wanted to. This mindset that I didn't have the skills or the qualifications to get a nice job if I really wanted to, or the resources to do it. I just didn't have many options. That's what I would tell myself. But then I started to think with a more abundant mindset just recently and think, what if it did work out? What if I am supported in this? It started pretty recently. I was in therapy, I was talking about this type of stuff and my struggles with working these jobs I'm working and finances and shit like that. And my therapist, she said something about like going back to nursing school. And at first I was like, I can't do that. Like, I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. I don't have this. And then she kind of just looked at me and was like, if you really wanted to go back, like, this isn't exactly what she said, but she basically said, like, if I really wanted to go back, I could. Like, everything, requires an investment of some sort. Everything requires a risk of some sort and a sacrifice of some sort. And you have to choose, like, what do you prioritize? What do you really want? And at first I was like, well, I don't really want to go to nursing school. But then I started thinking about it and I was like, actually, I never wanted to leave nursing school. I felt like I had to leave because, I left for my mental health break. And then I just kind of assumed that was that. I would never go back. Now, years later, I started to consider. I was like, I could go back. It really wouldn't be that much longer to go back and finish school. And then I started to get real excited. And I started to think, oh, I'm going to go back to nursing school. I'm going to finish school. I'm going to be a nurse. And then I started thinking, like, even being excited about the process of it. Like, even starting from semester 1. And, like, I was like, oh, it'll be a great review. I'll know so much from what I've learned in previous classes that it'll be easier to study because I'll have a more understanding about it. And I was just kind of getting excited about it. But then I was like, wait a second. I've had this lack mindset for so long that I chose nursing because of my lack mindset. I originally wanted to be a doctor, and I tried to get into UAB, which is a local university where I live in Birmingham, Alabama. University of Alabama at Birmingham, and they're a great school for healthcare, for nursing, STEM classes, and med school. Like, they're kind of known for that. And so when I was 18, I tried to get in to UAB, and my ACT score was like 1 point too low, and I didn't qualify, and they didn't let me in. I remember I was like, fuck. And instead of, having like this abundant mindset of like, I have all the time, all the money, all the resources in the world, one step at a time, I can make this work, I can have faith. And even if I don't have, all the resources on me right now, I can just trust if I take one step forward, the universe, the God, he'll meet me halfway, and I'll make it. I will make it. If it's meant to be, if it's aligned, it will work out. But instead, back then I had this mindset that I needed to graduate really quick, that I didn't have time. I had this lack mindset that I lacked the time to invest 10, 12 plus years in school to become a doctor. Now, I think about that now as a 25-year-old, and that sounds a little ridiculous. If you really want to be a doctor, the whole point is like the journey of being a doctor. You can't just like learn it in a year. Like it's not something you'd want to comfortably be doing after a year of studying it. Like, if you enjoy being a doctor, you enjoy the process of becoming a doctor, of what you're studying, of what you're learning. So what I originally was going to do is I was going to get a bachelor's degree in biology, because my two main interests were forensic science and something in healthcare. And if you have a bachelor's degree in biology, it's a really good bachelor's degree for applying to med school, and it's also a really good bachelor's degree for forensic science. Specifically, if you wanted to do toxicology, forensic science, there's so much to it, then get a chemistry degree. Or, I was told if you wanted to work in ballistics, then get a physics degree. It's basically like, what did you want to do? I was more into like the blood spatter type stuff, and the body and the evidence, things like that. And so I was like, I'm going to get my degree in biology. Then that leads me where I could qualify for lab jobs. I could qualify for forensic jobs. I could even go to med school if I wanted to. But then when I didn't get into UAB, instead of trying harder, I settled. And I said, well, fuck it. I'll just go to nursing school. It'll be quicker, and I'll be making money quicker. And, it is something I enjoy and I'm passionate about. So I kind of settled. One thing I learned in all these years is never settle. Never settle. Never, ever, ever, ever settle. You deserve the best. You deserve the best relationship. You deserve the best job for you. You deserve the best house. You deserve the best everything. And if you're friends with somebody and they're not being good to you, or you're in a relationship and they're not being good to you, don't ever settle. And, because you're afraid you won't find something else, because that's that lack mindset. So once I realized this, I was like, well, do I even really want to finish nursing? Let's say I can now. What do I want? Like, what do I really want to do? And I started thinking about all my passions and my interests and different jobs I've wanted over the years, what I wanted to be when I was a kid, and how it changed throughout my life, and just really trying to figure things out, right? And a big thing that changed for me was when I was younger, like I said, 15 to 18, around that age, I didn't want to live long. I was very suicidal. I didn't really think of myself as planning for the future. When I thought about spending 10, 12 years in school to become a doctor, it made me think, well, by then I'll graduate and then I'll probably be dead. And now I want to live. I'm happy. Like, I want to be I want to live. I want to live. I want to be alive. I want to feel alive. I want to experience life. And this was new for me. And I started to realize, like, whoa, I can actually start, like, planning my life in a way I never had before. And it was just this amazing, like, refreshing new feeling. And I started to be like, well, maybe I'll go to med school, or maybe I'll be a forensic scientist, or maybe I'll study this. And I started to think about all the things that I want to do and that I'm interested in. And I kind of settled on a degree for now. I'm taking things one step at a time. I have a long-term plan and I have a long-term goal, but I'm taking things one step at a time, especially one semester at a time. And I'm not going to be afraid to make a U-turn. If I get to a certain point and I decide, this taught me that I don't want this, but I do want that, it's a good thing to turn around and make a U-turn. Just because you invested so much time and energy into something doesn't mean it's a waste if you don't finish it. It's a redirection. And I started to realize, how much I value having a work-life balance, how much I value pleasure and leisure and play and rest, as well as working hard and challenging myself, because I realize all those things are necessary and all those things are good in their own way. I asked myself, if I had $100 million, if I had all the money in the world, I never had to work again, never had to, I could have my dream house, dream car, and all the money in the world for the rest of my life, what would I do? I realized what's important to me is to enjoy the journey that I'm on. I in nursing school, I was so focused on the end result. Once I graduate, I'll be happy. Once I graduate and start working and make my own money, then I'll be relaxed. Then I'll be happy. And I knew that's not true. Like, your happiness is in the now. It's in the present moment. There is no later. There is no future. There is no past that we can look at right now. All we have is the present moment, where we can reflect presently what happened before, and we can think about what might happen in the future, but it's all happening in this one present moment. I started making all these connections. I started having all these epiphanies, and I started realizing the thing that I've been most passionate about, that I have a fucking mission for in my lifetime, is to teach people, to educate people, and to preach and to live by example the fact that our mental health is directly tied to our physical health, and both of them are as important as the other. I am here to change how mental health is. I want to destigmatize it. I don't want people to look at therapy as woo-woo, or look at things in psychology as, just spiritual crap. There is science behind these things. There is research. There's evidence. Psychology is valued for doctors to learn as much as the biology. Okay? And I started to realize that my true passion with nursing really came from this core that if you can heal the root of the problem, which is often a mental thing, a psychological issue, if you can heal that and address that, then it prevents a lot of these physical problems that people end up hospitalized for in the long run. Okay? It's like, why would a patient that's been admitted to a hospital 5 times in the past 5 years, 10 years, they've been admitted 5 times for heart issues, and their diet continues to be bad, they don't take their medicines properly, they don't go to their appointments for their doctor? Why is that? It's like, what do you learn when you're making the new habits? There's psychology behind how people can form new habits, how people can work around things like ADHD and anxiety and depression and things that might keep them from taking care of themselves fully, which in turn keeps them out of the hospital. A huge problem is people who struggle with addiction going in and out of the hospital, in and out of the hospital, in and out of the hospital. They're let out of the hospital, and what? They go right back to their lifestyle. and their lifestyle is very unhealthy, very chaotic, and destroys their body, and then they end up right back in the hospital. And to me, I just remember feeling like I felt like what I was doing with nursing was like a Band-Aid. Like I'd fix, the problem, then they'd go home, but then it was in their hands to really, I felt like I could make more of a difference in psychology and the education and I have this deep passion and this mission for how the mind connects and directly correlates and relates to the body, the physical body, and how our mental health, our spiritual health, and our physical health are all tied together and related. What's truly fascinating to me is the effect that our mind has on our physical body. Like, even just the phenomenon of the placebo. Like, it's incredible. And I really believe that many medical conditions and issues are results of psychological issues manifesting in the body. So if we get to the root of the problem, for example, an addict, why does an addict use? In my opinion, I've had a lot of experience with addicts. My mom, my dad, my siblings, my best friends. I've grown up with addicts, lived with them. Hard addicts, people on fentanyl, people on meth, people on heroin, okay? People taking pills. And let me tell you, I really believe the reason people end up becoming addicts is not because they just want to be high and say, fuck the world, fuck, my family and everybody else. I just want to get high and do nothing. At some point in their addiction, they don't want to be an addict anymore. Every addict, I feel like, hits some point in their addiction where they're like, I have to live like this. They feel like they have no other choice. And I believe the root of addiction, the root of this opioid crisis in America, in the world, is because people are deeply struggling with their mental health. Why else would you choose to escape your reality if not because you're anxious or depressed or something? It's like, if you can solve the roots of the issue, then if you can solve the root of the addiction, then it can cut down so many people being hospitalized repeatedly because of it. And the same can be said for a patient that is repeatedly admitted for heart problems, but then continues to eat junk food and McDonald's and not drink water and have a bunch of Cokes, and they have tons of energy drinks, and they don't take care of themselves, and they don't, maybe it's because they don't know, or maybe they do know, but that's just what they've always done. And it's easier said than done to just up and change your whole lifestyle. But you know what helps with that? Therapy, psychology, mindfulness, meditation. These things this is what I'm most passionate about. So that's why, guys, that's why I'm majoring right now currently in psychology. And I really like the idea of getting my bachelor's in science and psychology with a minor in biology, and I also want to do a minor in forensic psychology. I might even do a minor in forensic science. Right now I'm taking it one semester at a time, but I'm really excited. There's all kinds of things I can do. I could work in forensic science, I could work as a lab tech, I could work in research, I could get my PhD and work as a psychologist, a therapist, and also having these credentials and what I can learn can add more value to my podcast, to my YouTube channel, to my life, to my conversations with people. I feel like this is how I can change the world in my own way. I feel like things are finally starting to align and make sense. Like I feel happy. I feel like I'm actually on a path worth working hard for. And I'm just really fucking excited, you guys. I'm even considering going to med school. But I'm not going to think too much about what I'm going to do in the future. I'm just going to focus on, I'm making plans, but I'm going to focus on right now. Take it one step at a time. I got to say it one more time. The root to solving the addiction problem is not to lock up addicts and to have them pay fines and take them to jail and put them on probation and have them take drug tests. That doesn't fucking help. It doesn't. But what will is solving the root of the problem, which is addressing their mental health, which is why they're using in the first place, why they're doing drugs and escaping reality in the first place. Things are changing. We're no longer going to be pushing children to pick something and stick to it when they're 18 forever, because that doesn't make sense. I was 18. I went straight into college. I'm literally a teenager, a freshly 20-year-old in nursing school, right? Surrounded by a bunch of other teenagers or people in their early 20s. Yes, there were some people that were older, but it was mostly a bunch of kids. And looking back, it's a bunch of kids learning how to do a really serious job. And that's why a lot of people don't make it through nursing school. That's why the fucking success rate of graduating, like, I remember that there'd be like 80 students or something admitted into the year of the program. I think like 6 would graduate or some crazy shit like that. And it's because when you're a kid, you don't know. You really just don't. And the only way to know is to just do and learn, figure it out. Whether you're going to like something or not, whether something's meant for you or not, what something actually is versus, the idea of something versus actually doing it. I remember being in one of my first little lab classes in nursing school. We were learning how to put in a nasogastric tube, which is like a feeding tube in the nose. And we weren't even with patients. We had dummies. And this girl passed out. Straight up passed out. I'm not making fun of her. But I'm just, the whole point in me saying that is because at the end of the day, it's a bunch of kids in college. And what do you expect? You can't expect somebody to go from being a kid to, the next day they're a adult with, perfect executive functioning and they understand exactly what it's like to be a nurse and what to do. It takes years and years. And the only way that can happen is if you enjoy it, or else it just burns you out and burns everyone around you out. My point in saying that is that don't be so hard on yourself. Sometimes you just get into nursing school and then you pass out and have to leave because you just don't want to do it. And that's fine. You're a kid. Being a teenager, being in your 20s, even being in your 30s, this is the time to make mistakes. This is the time to learn. This is the time to learn by doing. That is the only way to truly learn. The only way to truly know if nursing is for you was for her to go to that lab and pass out and be like, guess I don't really want to do this anymore. Okay? It's not a failure. It's an accomplishment. You learned what didn't work and you learned what did work. Ooh, one of my favorite mantras, there's no such thing as failure. Only lessons and blessings, my friends. So, to wrap this up, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about psychology is because being in nursing, I learned and I really believe that many physical illnesses and problems that occur and reasons people are hospitalized are directly related to psychological issues that manifest in the body and or lifestyle changes that can be addressed with psychology to prevent the medical problem in the first place. Nursing, it felt like a Band-Aid. It felt like I was treating something, it'd get better, and it'd go right back to it. And, nurses see it all the time. Patients that come in and out, in and out. This feels like, psychology feels like stopping it from the beginning. And that feels like where I can, create an actual change, like the root of the problem. And it's just all making sense to me now. And also, disclaimer, I'm not saying that nursing is just a Band-Aid as a whole and, psychology is better. I'm saying that they need to be used in conjunction with each other. Okay? Nurses are incredibly important. They do life-saving, amazing work every day, every shift. doctors are too. But so are psychologists. So are people, psychiatrists. So are people working in psychology and like, I have so much more to say. But we're already at like an hour, so I'm going to wrap it up. You know, I could also see myself being a professor. I'm a natural storyteller. I'm naturally someone that just preaches. Like, I just preach and like go into these fucking rants, and like I feel like I'm really good at teaching and explaining and educating and putting things into simple words that are too complicated to understand. And I think I would be a really good fun professor. I think I'd be awesome at that. Or even like I've really been looking into becoming a forensic psychologist. Something about that just seems like right up my alley. And I'm going to leave you with this. I really am. I'm going to leave it at this. I was in this hole, very depressed, almost like borderline suicidal. And I'd been thinking about nursing school. This is recently. This was like in the last couple months. And I was considering going back, and it was, I've been, to be fully honest, I've been unemployed, and I don't have like resources financially, and I just started feeling really lost, and I was like, what am I gonna do? Really panicked. I've been applying to all these jobs, going to a lot of interviews, and I'm just like, what am I gonna do? And then I started being like, well, maybe I could go back to nursing school. And I was thinking about how I didn't like the school that I was at last time. I would, I'm not completely opposed to going back to that program, but I would like to go to a better school if possible. And so I looked at my local university, and I applied in like I was so, like literally crying and depressed, and I was sitting on the couch. I had no reason to, but I just applied online, and I put the $45 application fee on my credit card that's already over $1,000 in debt, you guys. And I literally, like, there was no real logical reason for me to do this. Like, I really, like, it probably wouldn't have been that smart to do, but I did, and I ended up getting in. And that was so nice at first. I'm like, oh my God, I got into school, like, and that's amazing. Like, I got in. And then they give me a fucking scholarship. They give me a scholarship, and then they invite me to an awards ceremony where I get an award for my excellence in academics or something like that, because and technically I have a 4.0 GPA in college because my nursing credits didn't transfer over. And so I was like, oh my God, am I going to go back to school? And I started to get really excited, and I applied for a grant, and guess what? I got it. And then, you guys, if you like have been watching all my content on YouTube, I've been talking about dragons a lot this year. Dragons have been really important to me. And this school's mascot is a fucking dragon. And guess what? I wake up, I look at my phone, and I got another fucking scholarship. And it's called the Dragon Recognition Scholarship. Can you believe that? Like, I've seen so many dragon synchronicities, and then I get this, and I think, oh my God, is it even the year of the dragon in Chinese astrology? Let me check. Oh my God, I just looked. It really is the year of the dragon in the Chinese astrology. Like, I've read this book on, you guys, I've been obsessed with dragons ever since I was a little kid. And this just felt like so many signs. So I got 2 scholarships and a grant. And then I started spiraling, and I was like, whoa, tuition is a lot more at a university than at community college. And I started freaking out, and I started having this lack mindset. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. I'm just going to break even. And then I'm going to have to work, and then I'm going to have to go to school, and it's going to be so hard. And then I took a deep breath. I evaluated what I wanted. I evaluated what I'm willing to invest in, what I'm willing to take a risk for. And I realized that if I chose from a place of love and abundance, I would go back to school. And if I choose from a place of lack and fear, I might panic and say, I don't know, and not go. So I'm at a point in my journey where I'm able to become aware of that. And the reason I share this story is because I want you to know, I had times, even recently, where I'm like, is this going to work? And I start drowning in this lack mindset. And the key is to stay aware and to choose abundance when you realize it, when you can. To choose to lead with love and to choose to trust that things will work out. That, there was no reason for me to apply to this school, but I just kind of trusted it. And then boom, grant 2 scholarships. Okay? And then I could, go back into that lack and be like, well, cost of living and school and tuition is still so much. Or I could trust that more and more things, if it's supported for me, will show up along the way to support me, that God, the universe, will support me and what I'm doing and meet me halfway as long as I show up and try. And what's even crazier is I sat down and I really made, with some good energy, I made these vision boards for this year. And I was reading this book called The Fourth Wing, which is, a fantasy book with dragons. And I had these pictures that I printed out of dragons. And I wasn't originally going to put them on my vision board because, I was like, what am I going to manifest, a dragon? But I was like, they just look so, the colors of the pictures look so aesthetic, like they just fit perfectly in with the vision board. And I just felt drawn and called to do it. So I literally put dragons on my vision board. Not knowing, at this point, I had no plans to go to nursing school, and I had not yet applied. I hadn't applied to UAB. I literally did not even consider going back to school. In my head at that point, I wasn't going to go back. And now I can look at my vision board and see how the dragons on my vision board have manifested in its own way. The Dragon Recognition Scholarship that's now enabling me to go after a dream on my vision board and make it real. And I just think that is so beautiful, so amazing. God is good. You guys, it's just amazing. There's so much more I want to talk to you guys about, but I'm going to leave it at that. I love you. If you've made it to this point, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you spending your time with me. Your time is valuable. And I value it, and I hope that you got some sort of value gleaned from this podcast, whether it's entertainment or knowledge or feeling understood, seen, related, whatever it may be. And I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Well, I guess you'll hear me next time if you choose to. Anyway, okay.